to you then, sir. Ladies and gentlemen,
Fantastic.
Robert.
Thank you very much, Richard, and an absolute pleasure to be with you all. As Richard said, my background is over 15 years in management consulting. So run a large number of workshops, from the very big, very expensive set piece events with senior leadership teams through to stuff as part of big delivery projects and the like. And so Axis was a business I co-founded with two other people, one who's very much on the technology side, the other on the design and user experience side. Exists to help make every meeting and workshop as effective, inclusive and engaging as possible. So through my years of running these kind of sessions, the one thing that I've noted is that workshops are very hard to get right. It's very hard to make sure that you hear every voice. It's very hard to avoid groupthink, follow the boss behavior. You have silent experts who don't get their voice heard. And so we need to make it easy to make every workshop, every meeting work effectively. And what I've noted is that the primary driver of whether those sessions work well is their facilitation, right? So it's that individual who thinks about what the session is for, sits down and decides how to structure it, what activities to do to get the best out of people, and then ultimately runs it on the day and guides people through a journey of creating ideas, of discussing those ideas, of refining them, of iterating, of making decisions, of prioritizing, making sure that you have a clear focus on action and outcome and detail and specificity. That is the key role, is that facilitation. And so the best way really to describe what Axis is to say that it is a digital facilitation app. So it is the distillation of the methods, the structure, the techniques, the step-by-step guidance, and that make great facilitation. And the digitization of those things means that anyone can very quickly set up a workshop meeting and then run it with a high degree of confidence that it will work well, right? And they'll get a good degree of alignment, good amount of content, everyone will have their voice heard, and they'll have a really clear outcome focus. And obviously, more recently, this is a journey that we started a number of years ago, and actually our primary focus was meetings in live face-to-face meetings. You'll see in a moment when I run a workshop that the device that you use to participate is your smartphone, and that was to think of a smartphone as a digital post-it note, right? You don't want everyone sitting in front of their laptops in the same meeting room. Obviously, the world has fundamentally changed, and looks set to remain changed. So now, obviously, we're all working virtually, and it looks like that virtual reality is here to stay, at least to some degree. And so, there's been a big push now to use Axis, and we have one big consulting organization who have over 1,000 users of Axis across their organization. Big push is around or virtual collaboration. So if we talk about all the challenges that you have in a face-to-face workshop of, some people not engaged, groupthink, follow the hierarchy, the lack of detail to the content that's created, all those things get exacerbated and are more acute in a virtual setting. It makes everything harder. And therefore, what we've seen is that there's been this big shift of organizations over to Zoom, over to Teams, as a way to continue to collaborate at all. But that doesn't mean that collaboration is effective. And you're seeing lots of meetings and workshops that, everyone's joined and are on, but the output just isn't there, the impact just isn't there. And so that's the big focus for us now, is how do we enable virtual teams to collaborate more effectively, inclusively, to run great sessions, consistently great sessions, over Teams, over Zoom, using Axis to support that video conferencing technology. So that's the overall approach. And you know, I wanted to show you it, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a workshop that you can all join and participate in as if it were for real, and give you a sense of how it works, right? And what it looks and feels like. Please feel free to ask any questions on the chat or through voice. Be delighted to answer them. Richard, I'm going to be sharing my screen full screen, so that means it'll be hard for me to see the chat. So if there are questions, it'd be good if you just shout out, and then I can tab back over. But with that,
yeah, no problem. I'll keep an eye on the chat space and Q&A if anything. But yeah, like Rob says, guys, please, you know, interact through that. That'd be great. Thanks.
Fantastic. So hopefully you can see my screen. Richard, is my screen coming through?
Keep on muting myself. Yes, I can see that. Thank you very much.
Okay, so this is the tool. Is web-based, so you view it through any web browser, and this is the main facilitator workspace. So as someone who runs meetings and workshops, this is the space where I manage my existing sessions. You know, all the usual stuff you'd be able to do with those. I've got all my support, so best practice tips, FAQs, advice on you know, how to really nail remote facilitation, and then I've got the ability to create a new workshop. And I've got two options here. So if I create a new workshop, I can either go to a template library, and the idea of a template library is to have a bunch of pre-packaged sessions, right, where the phases that you're going to go through, the methods that you're going to use, the key question, it's all predefined. So you literally click on it and go. So if I go to, say, a lightning decision jam, which is a classic, and actually this is an important point, right? So obviously when it comes to collaboration, there's been a lot of development recently around agile and design thinking methods to make people be more creative, more innovative, more open, break through orthodoxies, you know, think differently. And so a lot of what Axis does is it takes those design thinking, those agile methods, and it digitizes them. And a great example of that is Lightning Decision Jam. It's a kind of classic design thinking approach. If I click on it, you can start to see how Axis works. You know, you have the pre-existing objective. You know, that this is all about problem statement driven. You know, a Lightning Decision Jam is essentially a way of rapidly solving a problem, and what you'll see is that we've pre-configured all the methods across the phases, and I'll come and show you in this more detail, right? So you're basically, the workshop is all ready to go. You literally just need to click start, and then off you go, right? So that's what the templates do. What I want to show you today, though, is a custom workshop, which we're going to run. So if I go to custom workshop and I say, this is the session we're going to run, define.
Hi, Rob. It's Richard. We've lost your sound. Oh, you're back.
Oh, I think that was just because I couldn't manage to type and speak at the same time. I'm showing I'm showing my poor multitasking. So what this is about is you're creating your clear objective and your key question, and this is all scaffolded. So there's information here to explain, you know, what these things are. In running an effective workshop, the key question is really, really important, because it's the pithy, you know, clear exposition of why you're all ultimately there, and it's the litmus test as to whether or not the session has been successful, as to whether that question is satisfactorily answered. So what you'll see within the structure of Axis is that it is always referencing back to that key question to make sure that people maintain that focus and set a purpose throughout the session. So, you know, you set up your objective and your key question, and then the way that Axis works is that a lot of research into how people collaborate and what makes a great workshop. One of the key learnings is structure. right? So clarity of purpose with the key question and the objective, and then structure and a journey to get and resolve and answer that key question. And so what we've done is we've looked at it and we've broken that journey down into 5 standard phases. So obviously you can edit your details and your objective and your key question. And then what you're really doing is as you design your workshop, you're saying, okay, well, here are my 5 phases that I can use. Which ones do I need for this session? And then for each phase, what method do I want to use to enable people to collaborate in that phase? So for example, if I look at the phases, we've got share. Now share is all about how do you get people in the right mindset? How do you get them to spark collaboration, to break the ice, to think differently? And so in this case, you might say, okay, well, we want to get people to think about how we can travel to Mars. So let's start off with a classic icebreaker, which is finish the sentence. So we can see the different methods. You can click on the methods, you can see them, you can read how they work, description, how long they generally take, the number of people, when to use it. There's always more support if you want to see a video of how it works and that stuff. And then once you've decided that, yes, that's a method that you want to use in that phase, you add it to your workshop. And then in many cases, that method is configurable. So in finish the sentence, we need to decide what the sentence is. So I want to go to Mars because, right? That's what we're going to use to break the ice. Well, I'm actually going to remove it now because we won't have time to do all the phases, but hopefully that gives you a sense of how you add a method and can see how that works. Now, then the next step then.
So Rob, I just jump in. This is building your workshop before you start to use it. Correct,
exactly. So this is you've got your key question. You now know that you want to run that session. You might say, okay, well, I literally just want to do a rapid idea creation. And therefore you only use the create phase and you literally just select one method, which is idea creator. And you just think of it basically as digital post-it notes and whiteboard, and that's it. But the real strength of Axis comes when you start to link these phases together and therefore start to build up basically a collaboration workflow where everything flows from phase to phase, and you build up a structured approach to problem solving. So if we look at the start of that process, once you've broken the ice through share, and then you want to think about, how do we understand the problem? You then have a bunch of methods for frame, right? So again, orthodoxy, so deeply held, widely shared beliefs. You could use Rose, Thorn, Bud. So that's a method from Boy Scouts of America. What's not working, what is working, what are the key opportunities? Complete the statement is like, how might we? So you can have an ambition statement. How might we, travel to Mars or teleport, right? You can think of things totally different right there. That's the idea of that one. SWOT, classic strategy method, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So this is how you start to really understand the context in which you're going to solve the problem. Now, in the case of a trip to Mars, obviously it's a risky endeavor, and therefore, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a risk matrix, and the risk matrix allows us to identify risks of traveling to Mars and then evaluate them in terms of effort, in terms of impact and probability. So it allows us to prioritize our risks, and then for the next phase, we're going to mitigate those risks. So come up with ideas that will allow us to address those risks. Again, bunch of different methods. Round robin, for example, that allows you to create an idea. That idea gets past the next person who challenges it, who then gets passed to the next person who responds to that challenge to make the idea better. Again, whole host of different methods you can use. I'm going to use Idea Creator. It's very simple. It'll just allow us to create ideas against the themes that we've developed in the frame. Then, and this is really important, right? When you've got a bunch of people, you want to have a crowdsourced collective evaluation of which ideas are the ones that we want to take forward into execution. You want to have people aligned on that, and you want that decision to stick and be credible because everyone accepts it. And so one of the really important things that Axis does is it has lots of voting and scoring that allows you to make those decisions. So in this case, let's say we're going to have 40, 50, 60 ideas around how we mitigate those risks. We're going to use dot voting. And dot voting allows you to basically choose how many votes each participant has. And then on that basis, they can place those votes to determine which they think the best ideas are. And then we're going to, after that, use that to down select to a smaller number of ideas and then use 2x2 matrix with effort and value. Why that's really powerful is because the first thing allows you to down select toward, your top 10 ideas, for example. And then the 2D matrix allows you to really understand where are quick wins, so the things that are low effort but higher value, and where are strategic moves, which are higher effort but very high value, right? So you can start to bring in that return on investment value-based view of things. And then finally, sorry, go on.
There, Rob, I would also presume that gives everybody a voice.
Exactly.
There's lots of people that dominate meetings and drive the agenda, whereas other people that don't quite get heard.
Yeah, exactly. So throughout, and as you see as I run this, everyone can input their ideas, and then it is totally open as to where that voting goes. So there's no one who, it's basically a bunch of secret ballots, right? So you are getting a true collective view of what's best, which is really, really important. And then the final thing, and this is quite dry, right? Actions. No one likes action lists. But there's a lot of research to show that many organizations don't have the discipline of creating actions at the end of meetings and workshops, and that really impacts their productivity. So this basically forces you, for each idea that you want to take forward, you need to create an action, you need to create an owner, and you need to create a due date. It's a dry bit of the session. It's not going to be people's favorite bit, but it is the most important bit in many ways, because if you don't do it, you might have come up with some great ideas, but then obviously they don't get executed. So what was the point? So really important. So I'll just add that. And then you finished, right? So just to clarify that again, once you've decided what you want your session to be, it could be a very rapid brainstorm, or it could be a full day, half day event, whatever it is, you need to decide which phases do we want to do of the 5? Do we want to do them all? Do we want to do one of them? Whatever it might be. And then within each phase, you decide which method to use and configure it to your purposes. And that is how you create a workshop. So it's pretty quick, right? And it's designed to make it easy for anyone, whether they're a seasoned professional design thinking facilitator, or someone who's relatively new and it's not their core competency or experience, to create a well-structured, well-thought-through idea, a workshop very, very quickly. Okay, so that's the workshop created. Now we're going to run it. So we start the workshop. So let's imagine that this is being run and I'm sharing over Zoom. Then what everyone needs to do is they need to join the workshop. So as I said, I want to run this like a real session. So if everyone wants to pull out their smartphone, and if you've got an iPhone, you can just use your camera on the QR code. If you've got Android, you'll need a QR code application to do that. So you can either use the QR code and scan that to join, or you can use this unique link, or you can go to join.axis.ws and enter the code, which is busy-gift-mate. And you'll always see that at the bottom of the screen, so anyone can join at any time. So if everyone just wants to join the workshop, I'm going to do it myself. This will allow you to see how it works. A couple of important things to note. So you'll see that you had to do the Google reCAPTCHA to get access. We have ISO 27001 information security. We work for a number of large corporate clients and been through all their information security and GDPR requirements. So, the application is highly secure. It's secured for confidential, highly confidential.
That was pretty quick and easy to get into. And presumably this stuff can be branded for each company or something.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So for a number of organizations, we've done the branding. So we've got people's logos. We can also build custom workshop templates. So for one large consumer goods organization, we've built custom workshops for how they do their brand templates on an annual basis and stuff like that, right? So you can build your own have your own custom workshops built. Okay, fantastic. Is there anyone having trouble joining, or is everyone okay to join and continue?
Can you see how many people you've got joined? You should.
I've got 11. I've got 11 joined.
All right, well, that's because there's 14 participants on the call. I can see it on the left. Yeah, that's fine. I think. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So everyone joins, and then to make it really simple for the facilitator, it's literally just think of it as a PowerPoint presentation that you're going left and right. So you're starting off and you're saying, okay, guys, this is our objective. This is the key question we're trying to answer. Get everyone clear on that. This is the journey we're going to go on. So we're looking at risks, dangerous endeavor going to Mars. So let's understand the risks of that endeavor. Let's then create ideas to mitigate our key risks. Let's evaluate those ideas with dot voting and 2D matrix to prioritize, and then let's get a clear set of actions with owners and due dates. And then the way it works is it's all structured and scaffolded. So particularly in a virtual setting, there's a real risk that you lose people because they're not clear on what they're doing and where they're going. And that's really damaging for inclusion. It's really damaging for innovation and discussion. And so at every phase, you reiterate the key question, you explain what you're about to do and why, and therefore everyone's very clear. And you go through to the next step. And now what you'll see on your device is the ability to create risks. So, you can enter a risk on your smartphone with a description and click submit, and you'll see that risk will pop up. So I'm gonna do, feel free to do some so you can see what it looks like. And then the idea is that once you're done, you say I'm done. And so it gives the facilitator visibility of where people are at. Okay, and the idea here is to give people the independent, the space, the free time to think, right, and generate their own ideas. So you might say, look, guys, we've got 5 minutes, and you've got a countdown timer to do that, right? So just think through, what are your individually your top 1 or 2 or 3 risks that you think exist in this trip to Mars, and we'll go from there, right? So this is to give people independent thought time. And once that's done, you then move through to the next step, which is to discuss and refine those risks. So now you can see them. You can see that test was a very popular risk. Okay. So we don't want that multiple times. So you can discard the duplicates of test. Okay. So we've just got one of them. And you can use this now to discuss them, right? So you can discuss and refine, what does this mean? Oh, well, this is about aliens that might eat us, very hungry, whatever it might be, right? So you can start to capture the discussion. So that then allows you to have that collective discussion refinement. With that done, we now go to the next step, which is, well, not all those risks are equal, because some of them are very high impact. So if they do happen, it would be catastrophic. The mission's a failure, everyone's dead. Other ones, might be, oh, well, if it did happen, it wouldn't be the end of the world. We could continue with the mission. And then there's probability, right? I mean, aliens, not so sure it's going to happen. So you need to score across those things. So, if you go now, use the sliders on your smartphone, you can go through and you can score each of the risks in terms of impact from high to low and probability from high to low.
Test, we don't know, we can't impact.
No, I mean, I'm just putting in whatever,
yeah.
Right?
Okay, so you find, oh, I see, you get them at the bottom then, yeah. So.
Yeah, you can just go through them and put whatever you think. And I know we haven't got a huge amount of time, so I'll move through. I mean, this obviously, if you were to truly want to plan a mission to Mars, you'd probably give yourself more than 20 minutes. But hopefully this will give you a good sense of how the tool works. So everyone scores, and then what the tool does is it generates a risk matrix. So you can see all the risks. And not only can you see the mean, so this is the average of everyone's score, which is your whole collective wisdom point. So the average of what everyone's put in. You can also see the spread, and as it gets darker is where multiple people have scored the same. And so the point of this is it then facilitates an effective discussion, because you can then say, well, why do we have that misalignment? Is it a tight cluster? Is it a big spread? What's driving that? You can move it around. You can say, actually, it's more up here. We've had a good discussion around it. Go back to the original score. You can move through the risks one after another. Obviously, what you do is your risks that are up here, you know, you'd be there, your priority ones you want to take forward. If there are ones down here, you'd probably remove them because they're less consequential, right? So it gives you a basis to down select your most significant risks.
So you can click and drag those things.
Yeah, I can drag
whilst you're then having your discussion, whilst you're reviewing each thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So the facilitator can discuss and move things around, right? So that gives you a basis to come to a final decision on, and again, it's all crowdsourced, collective wisdom. So everyone gets that decision. And then what you need to do is you need to do what's called sort of a version of affinity mapping, right? Which is to say, you know, what are the key risks? So these are ranked now. So oxygen was our highest rank as a combination of probability and impact. Fuel was our lowest rank as a combination of probability and impact. So you might say, okay, well, the fact there's no oxygen, that's a key issue. You know, you might say, well, aliens, that's an important one as well. And then you might create a new theme, which is, you know, it goes wrong. Whatever you wanted it to be, right? And then you can map multiples to that one. So you can say, oh, fatal accident sits there, test sits there, public opinion sits there. So it allows you to do a many-to-one mapping, essentially, of your risk to those themes. So you're now giving yourself structure. That's the whole point of the frame phase, is to give yourself structure and focus. So as we now pass into idea creation, the next step, and we're coming up with ideas to mitigate risks, what you'll see on your device is that you have the themes that you can select from. So oxygen, aliens, and it goes wrong. And you have the ability to create ideas with descriptions as you did with risks. So your idea, I mean, let's just come up with some. So feel free to put any in. Okay. So everyone can put in risks against those themes. So you're giving yourself structured, same mechanics as previously, which is once you've created, you're done. You say you're done, and then we move through into the next step. Again, same mechanics. So that was giving everyone independent time and space to think. This is now about discussion and refinement as a collective group. You can see all the ideas that we generated. You can filter them. So you could say, let's just look at the ones that deal with oxygen, or the ones with aliens as well, right? So this gives you a really nice, easy way to structure the discussion. You can create groups. So this could be, you know, it's part of our equipment. In that group, the extra tank, that's equipment as well. You know, a bore is, you know, this is our, what would that be? Like our method. Right, so you can start to give structure through your groupings. You can describe those groups, so you can really start to structure stuff, and you can obviously sort by the groups as well, right? So this now gives you a basis to have a discussion, refine, iterate that content before you then go into the next step, which is evaluation. So not all ideas are equal. So what we need to do is we need to down select to our best ideas, the ones that we really want to take into execution. So what you'll see now is dot voting. Right, so for every one of the ideas that we generated, you've got 10 votes. You need to choose where to put them. You know, you can put multiple votes on any idea, and then you just vote until you run out. And you're done. Okay, and then once that voting's done, you just click through to the next step, and the tool automatically sums up the votes. So you can say, okay, yeah, ray guns, and again, you can filter obviously, so you could just look at, you know, whichever, you know, whether your groups or your themes. You might say, okay, well, this one didn't get any votes, so we'll get rid of this. Ray guns, clear winner, fantastic. Okay, now that tells you ray guns is by far the most popular choice. What it doesn't say is ray gun a quick win is or a more strategic move. So you've done dot voting, that allows you to down select your top most popular ideas. Next step then is to collectively score them in terms of effort and value. So very like the, and you remember when I set up the matrix to choose effort and value. So you can now score those ideas in terms of their effort and value. So we'll give ourselves a sort of view of return on investment. So again, same mechanics, using the sliders, you know, you can score. And then once everyone has scored, you go through to the next step, which is then visualizing that matrix of the collective view. And you can see people's, again, the mean, the spreads, go through them, use this again as a basis to determine which ideas you want to take forward. Again, you can move it around as much as you want from that discussion, go back to the original score, same mechanics as we had with the risk matrix. So you use that to down select again. And then we go into the driest but probably most important element, which is the plan for action, right? So we're going to do an action list for this. So, ray guns, what's the action there? Design the things. Who's the owner? Me. When's due? Next week. Right. So you add all your actions. Go through that. Go through every idea. Add all your actions. Quite dry, but really important. You can then see the final situation. So ray guns are our idea. It's part of our equipment group. To shoot the aliens, it's addressing our key risk of aliens, and here's the action that we've got for it. And obviously you can have multiple actions for that. And then you are ready to get executing. So you complete the workshop and export the workshop data. So what happens is everything that you've done has been captured and is now opening in Excel. So all the data, all the scoring, everything is there. Can people see my Excel? I can't remember whether I squared my... Yeah, okay. So you can see here we go. I love the fact that the emojis come up in Excel. It was pretty cool when I first found that. So you can see everything that we've done, all the scoring, whether we chose to discard it or progress it, all our ideas, the scoring on those ideas, everything is there, whether it's the review score or the original, whatever you've done.
This is also, I'm sure, the real sort of gem in all of this, because yes, you've got the process and everything else, but now instead of writing up on flip charts or whiteboards and then someone having to grab those and capture it and then create this, it's automatically and immediately captured. Yeah,
exactly.
Discussion, yeah. Exactly,
and you can do things like, so for example, if you had a risk register, you could just paste your risks that you've generated from this into it. If you have an action plan, you can just paste your actions from this into that action plan. So it's very easy to just, to put it into stuff. It's got clear structure. The other thing to note is generally when you're running a proper workshop and people are using their smartphones, you have all the predicted text. People are very comfortable with their smartphones. It's not like a post-it note where you've got a small amount of space and a big Sharpie pen. Therefore, you tend to get quite generic, banal statements like blockchain or customer or robotic process automation, right? You tend to get much more detail because you've got a name and then you've got the description space, and therefore people just create more content, and therefore it means things are much more specific and detailed, which really helps you get into action. So you just tend to drive more action-orientated, more executable outcomes from the session. And that can be, I've used it for half-day, full-day workshops, big set piece, what's our overall business strategy, all the way down to, a quick, 15-minute retrospective. So, what's working, what's not working, and what are our quick ideas to prioritize to make sure that over the next sprint, we're going to do better performance. So it allows you to do both your big set piece stuff, but also every meeting, right? How do you make every meeting more interactive and more engaging and more inclusive? So hopefully that gives people a good sense of how it works. Any questions or thoughts?
You've got a question in the box. I don't know if people are able to unmic. They're more than welcome to ask questions direct. I'm not sure if that is working. But what training is provided? Yeah, so Christine, that's a good thing. So I've scribbled down here is, it looks very easy and quick to use. This is the second time that I've seen a presentation from you, and it's cool. However, there's that whole thing about creating adoption and getting used to using it. So would you train facilitators internally to help them use it?
So different organizations want different things, but yes, we have run, training sessions not just on Axis actually, but virtual collaboration more broadly using Axis. So what's the best practice? How do you make the most of Zoom? And, you know, how do you use Zoom chat? What are the roles that you have in a virtual workshop? So master of ceremonies, person managing Axis, person managing the chat, Richard, as you've done, you know, in today's session. You know, so yes, there's lots of support materials in Axis in terms of FAQs, best practice. We can also run training sessions as well. You know, with you know, virtual training where people can be shown it. The question then, how many people can participate? So you can have technically several thousand people can join any workshop, but obviously that would be you know, pretty difficult. I think generally, I mean, I've run sessions with over 80 people, which is obviously very hard to do in a traditional face-to-face, but actually is viable, right? Because yes, you get a lot of ideas, but you just have to give people time to review them. You know, use dot voting as a way to synthesize it down to the most popular ones. Generally, I would say between 10 to 20 is kind of the optimum number for a great workshop. So you've got sufficient coverage across the organization for there to be buy-in and credibility to the outcomes. But, you know, you don't have so many that you know, it becomes unmanageable because of the sheer volume of content that gets created that needs to be reviewed. The one thing I would say is that with Axis, because it makes it easier for everyone to have a voice, that some of the need to have smaller groups and breakouts diminishes. So one of the things that we've observed when you have sessions on which are virtual is that people are just, if you have more than 3 or 4 people on the call, people don't talk. And therefore we found that you have whole sessions where actually you know, people use the chat, right? Chat becomes a much more significant part of the communication process, and therefore, you know, it allows you to have bigger sessions because the notion of having a voice-based discussion, it just doesn't really exist so well in the virtual world. And therefore, you know, if you were going to do breakouts of 6 people, and we're looking at a session with a charitable organization next week, they were going to do breakouts of 6 people in each and try and facilitate discussion. And we've persuaded them actually don't do much bigger breakouts, because even if you have 6 people, you won't get a good discussion going over Zoom. And actually you're better just to have the efficiency of a bigger group. Yeah, so hopefully that answers that question. Are you able to save the working visual side? Like you mean like the matrix and stuff. So at the moment you have to screen grab them as you go through, but within a week or so we'll have an export of those images. So exactly, so you'll be able to export the raw data in Excel, and then you'll be able to export the images of the matrix, the voting, of all those things as well. So that will be in soon. And then finally, what's our pricing structure? So you can either go direct to our website and you can sign up, and it's $25 per facilitator per month. That allows you to run an infinite number of workshops with an infinite number of participants. If you want to look at something that's wider, so you say, you know, you want to give it to 10 people in your team, or you want to talk about a wider enterprise agreement, then we can do discounts against that. We can do the white labeling, your logo, we can build your custom workshops. So very happy to talk about the commercial side if that's of interest.
So on that, you can train a facilitator internally. You can help them, you know, show them how to use it, so they can then choose, because you've already got numerous processes to follow, so you can bring some trainers up to skill. Can you also, if someone says, okay, we'd like to do a workshop, we'd like to use Flatfrog, can you supply us a facilitator?
Yes, we can do that. Yeah, so we've
done part of a learning in parallel. Yeah.
Yeah, so sometimes so we did for a big pharmaceutical company, they had their annual marketing content session, and actually we designed the whole thing and ran the whole thing, because that's the way they wanted to do it. So yeah, we can do that as well. So if there's a particular session,
just final question. That was that doesn't have to be done through the company that you're working for. That's direct. No, okay, because
direct with Axis.
They don't own this. You do. Yeah,
correct.
So they're using it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, correct. They're a customer. Yeah, and you know, very happy to, you know, if anyone wants to talk about, you know, different options and how to use it, or would like to have a demo to their wider team or discuss different use cases, then please feel free to Richard, are we able to share my email address afterwards, and people get in touch or give me a call. I'm very happy to talk people through it.
Yeah, no, we can do that. We'll add that to the notes that I share and send round. Okay, well that's great. I think we.
Oh, sorry, Patrick, have you just raised your hand?
Oh.
Yeah, hi, it's Patrick. We used Access for the first time maybe 2 weeks ago internally with my team, and we're all working from the home office. So I just wanted to let everybody know that I'm not terribly internet or whatever digital savvy, but I was able to create an ideation session with action lists and everything in 4 steps in a matter of about 10 minutes. And my team had no problem at all using it. So we found it really fantastic. The work is super fast. We had the experience that it's a lot easier for the people who don't know the system to immediately start working with it, much easier than Mural or things like that. So we were really excited about this because it gives you so many options and it just reduces your workload so much. Yeah? The negative thing everybody said was that the Excel list that used to export the results is complete. Basically everything that was worked on is in there, but it was a big disappointment that the great graphic interface which the system provides is then not extracted for use in the report or the and did I get that right, that within a week or so you're going to change that?
Yeah, so so Patrick, thank you for that, and yeah, I mean, we've had that strong feedback from a large number of people, and we're going to fix it very soon. So
I
you'll
think
be
it's absolutely crucial for your success and for spreading this. Because when that is there, I think it's really a great tool. I think that's just my first experience using it, and we're trying to do more with it now.
Fantastic, brilliant. Thank you very much.
Remember, great, well done. Okay, if there's any more questions or anything, let's have them quickly. Otherwise, I'm going to draw the presentation to a close. We'll be posting the webinar on the EMA space and promoting that to other members. Happy if people I'll put your contact details in that so people can see that. And I think that we'll have a chat with you. I'll have a chat with my council and leadership group, but I can see a couple of projects that we've got going on that it might be worth using one of those, if you'd be so generous, as a workshop that we use the platform to see how that we can then use it in action for something that we're working on.
Pleasure.
And I can see Christina's online, so Christine, that'd be great for us to capture as a thought there. Great.
Brilliant. All right.
I don't see any more questions. Thank you everybody. Thank you everybody for attending, and Robert, thank you very much for presenting. And good luck with it. It's very exciting.
All right. Thanks very much. Catch you later, guys. Bye.